I'm Cliff, and this is my garage. I did something that was kind of cool, but then I pushed it too far and I melted my suspension. Today, we're going to look at how I melted my suspension, and then we're going to fix it. Hey, welcome back to the garage. And if this is your first time joining me, thanks for dropping by. I recently swapped out the catback portion of the stock exhaust here as part of Project 987.2, my project to improve the aesthetics and the performance of my 2012 Porsche Cayman S. I replaced the stock exhaust with a Carnewal GT system. If you're interested in how that process went, check out the suggested video link over here. After removing the old exhaust, I started wondering what it sounded like to run the Cayman with no mufflers at all. And, well, I think it was really kind of impressive. Here, take a listen to a cold startup. I thought it was kind of awesome. My wife and son, on the other hand, said it was obnoxious. Not content to leave well enough alone, I decided to take the Cayman out on the road here and see how it sounded during a drive-by. And a pull away. Again, I thought it was pretty cool. Sounded great to me, but my son said it had now graduated from obnoxious to painful. Supposedly, it literally hurt his chest being behind the Cayman during the pull-away takes. Despite the awesome way it sounded, of course, I couldn't actually leave it that way. Not only was it way too loud to be legal, the engine also ran really rough when doing anything other than just a plain idle or a full acceleration. So I put the car back up on the lift and proceeded on with installing the new exhaust. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. I saw this thing here poking up and I thought to myself, self? Where did that come from? Well, it turned out to be the sway bar link, the thing that connects the wheel carrier to the upper end of the sway bar down here. Apparently, when the car is on the ground and the suspension is compressed, the outlet from the exhaust manifold is pointed right into this area. And apparently, the exhaust gases are a whole lot hotter than when they exit the tailpipe. You can see here on the link from the passenger side that I've already replaced that the plastic bushing here completely melted, and the rubber boot was also kind of charred up and falling apart. Luckily, that was the only damage. It could have been a whole lot worse if I had melted a brake line. I'm just praising Jesus that he looks after fools and madmen, and that a sway bar link was the only thing that died that day. I looked up the part numbers for replacement links and found that with shipping, I was looking at about $180. One thing that was a bit odd, however, was the fact that the link for the right-hand side was about $10 more than the link for the left-hand side. The two links are absolutely identical, except that the bottom bolts are turned in different directions from each other. So, why the price difference? I was really trying to make sense of this, so I posted on a Facebook Cayman group asking why this could possibly be. As luck would have it, there was a fellow named Steven Springer who has a business called Ren Parts Direct that specializes in used Porsche parts. And he happened to have a pile of sway bar links that had been removed from Caymans being converted to track use. He said they were virtually brand new, and I could have a pair for just $80, including shipping. And as you can see, he was right. Except for a bit of Loctite on the threads, These could have easily come right out of my local Porsche dealer's parts bin. Stephen was great to work with. Check him out at renpartsdirect.com. Okay, let's get going on fixing this mess. Start off by removing this shield right here. You don't really have to, but it sure makes the job easy. You're going to need a 10mm socket or a wrench and a T20 Torx driver. These two upper nuts are the 8mm. Why use two different kinds of connectors, I don't know. But then we have to switch to a T20 Torx for this bottom connector. And now we have much better access. Now let's remove this upper connecting bolt that goes through the wheel carrier. Now this is a bit tough because, as you can see, the nut is on the other side, and when you try and turn it, well, this thing just spins around inside the hole. Now, looking here at the bolt from the other side, there is a hex part here that you can get hold of theoretically with an end wrench and hold it. The problem is that it's so tight, a regular end wrench won't go in there. Luckily, I have a set of these, and when you need them, there's just no substitute. These are super thin end wrenches, and you can see they're really skinny, and they will actually fit in there. So what I'll do is I'll just take and get this wrench on here. It's still a pretty tight fit because I don't have real clear access to get in there, but it's enough to hold it so that I can now remove the nut off the other end. Let's now loosen up. I'm going to do it by hand. Okay. And there we go. Removing the lower connector where it hooks on to the anti-roll bar or anti-sway bar is a bit weird because the lower connector is weird. I've honestly never seen anything like it. The nut may simply come right off because of the way the thing is made and it's sort of self-locking, but it also might just start spinning around like the upper connection. If that happens, you can't just grab onto the hex part like the upper one because it doesn't have a hex part like the upper one. I don't know if you can really see this, but this piece instead is just round. For whatever reason, instead of making it like the upper bolt where you have a hex thing to catch onto, Porsche has put a Torx socket in the end. So you have to use a Torx T27 bit in here to stop the connector from spinning and so you can take the bolt off. This nut here is a 16mm, and you can't use a socket on it because if you need to hold the bolt, a socket would keep you from getting access to this Torx socket back in here. So I'm going to use an end wrench, and what I'm going to use is one of these handy little ratcheting end wrenches that I got. These are close ratio, which means that you only have to move them a very little bit to catch the next tooth. Makes it super handy for close quarters like this, or even closer quarters in some parts of the car or other things that I've worked on. Okay, so, wrong way. Flip it this way, and let's just see if this comes loose on its own. It's not wanting to come loose at all. Okay. There. And it's starting to spin. Got a socket wrench with that Torx bit in it. And I'll use it there to hold it while I work this bolt back off. I think it might be loose enough to come on its, yes, loose enough to come off its own. And there we go. The link is now completely removed. Now let's install the new link. Going to put the upper connector back through the hole in the wheel carrier. and put the lower one through the anti-roll bar. Just kind of wiggle these around to make sure that the connectors are seated squarely on whatever face they're going onto. I used a wire wheel to remove the old Loctite on here. So we'll reapply a little bit. Even though the service manual doesn't say anything about putting any kind of a thread locker on here, I figure it can't hurt, and that sure looked like blue Loctite on the old bolts and the new one that came in. Now the thing with this this nut is that only this part right here is threaded. So we'll only need to put some Loctite right on this area right here. Just a few drops in that zone will do fine. Loctite is some pretty weird stuff. I should do a video on that one day. It's really pretty neat, actually. It's probably actually a bit too much I just put on there, but it'll be fine. So far, it's holding. Oh, it's there, starting to spin now. And what's odd about these things is it'll spin until it actually makes contact, and then it seems to like self-lock on itself. Self-lock on itself. It's kind of redundant, but you know what I mean. It self-locks, and then you can tighten it. There. Now, if I take and it's becomes seated. If I take and try and turn it, it won't spin anymore. Now the service manual specs out a little bit of an odd tightening procedure. What we do is we tighten the nut to 37 foot-pounds, then we loosen it a quarter turn, which when I did the other one, it basically made it completely loose, and then retightened it to 48 foot-pounds. I don't know why, I just do what I'm told. So I set the torque wrench to 37 foot-pounds. Okay, it appears to be tightening up fine. Okay, now, come on, turn. We're going to loosen it by a quarter of a turn. Reset torque wrench to 48 foot-pounds and retighten it. Oops, gotta switch the direction here. Okay, all done. Moving back to the upper bolt, this one's a lot more straightforward. Again, even though the service manual doesn't call for it, I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on the bolt here. Reinstall this bolt, or rather this nut, onto here. Use our super thin end wrench to get hold of this hex connector. And then I've already reset the torque wrench to 63, is that right? 63 foot-pounds. And now we'll tighten this up. There we go. And that's it. Like I said, I'm pretty grateful that my silly little experiment only resulted in some minor, easy to fix damage. Now, before you go, please go click on that thumbs up button and give the video a like. Also, if you're not a subscriber yet, go give that big old red subscribe button a click. And finally, if you want to keep up with everything I'm doing here in the garage, including future episodes of Project 987.2, as well as my new series, Cool Tools You've Never Heard of, go click on that bell icon. That way, YouTube will let you know every time that I post a new video from here in Cliff's Garage. I'll see you next time.